There we go. Welcome everybody to, this is the Rainmaker number 3, if I'm not mistaken, storytelling Zoom session where we get to talk a little bit more about the teachings of the Rainmaker, the hut practice, the caterpillar teachings, and now today I want to share with you some of the cocoon teachings, the cocoon wisdom actually, the wisdom of going in, the wisdom of dying well, the wisdom of learning how to wear and heal our challenges, our wounds, how to move our wounds to a womb so that we can birth some beautiful butterfly that is calling us. If you remember from last week, we talked about the caterpillar, and the caterpillar starts to die once it consumes its more than its body weight in a single 24-hour period. And then what happens is these imagio cells, the imagination cells, the dream, in other words, of the butterfly comes and starts this cascade of dying that goes on all simultaneously from head to toe simultaneously in the caterpillar. So this week we're jumping into the cocoon. We're going to talk about cocoon wisdom. And there's 3 teachings I want to pass on to you, which are just fabulous. I just love that we're learning from nature and learning from what the Rainmaker did in his hut practice. So we're going to be delving into the cocoon wisdom. I do really think it's about wisdom, and wisdom for today, relevant to times of certainty and definitely times of uncertainty. And so I do want to start with a story. I do want to go through the 3 teachings, and then I want to give you some nuts and bolts that you can take away with you. Some very practical things that enable you to die, let go, detach, grieve well. And then, yes, we'll talk a little bit more next week about this whole notion of butterfly beauty and the teachings around that. Again, nature is such a fantastic reflection and metaphor for us as humans. Not lost on you, the butterfly is the symbol of the soul. And so, I just needed to make sure is everybody on mute? Yeah. Please, that would be great. And I'll unmute you all for as we go along here for some Q&A and for some comments. But please don't be shy about entering into the chat any questions, concerns, answers to what we're doing. So somebody, is it Penelope? Maybe Penelope, you have to hit your mute button. Hannah, hi Hannah, hi Penelope. Hi, Yen, and anybody else who joins us. Yes, we're just getting started. We always have to start with honoring, of course, this beautiful land and territory that we're on, the ceded and unceded territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We need to honor the 5 elements, the 4 different other sentient beings, the creepy crawlies, the 4-leggeds, the scaled ones and the feathered ones, the 5 elements, fire, water, air, nature, rock, as I know them. And we need to also honor all the people that we are standing in the backs of, my teachers, your teachers, my family, your family, people that we know of and don't know of, and we welcome all of those teachers, and I'm not shy about it, saints of all religions, traditional wisdom, pipe carriers, shamans, healers, people who have come before us, who have somehow showed us the way around these teachings, but are also showing us the way right now in these very difficult and uncertain times, of which these teachings have a lot to do with. So I'm really excited to share all that with you, and I just want us all to hold some space for these this conversation. This conversation is really about letting go and dying and learning how to die well. And I got goosebumps all over me whenever I talk about this, because it's a very near and dear subject to me. I had a lot of death in my life, and had a lot of beauty come from that as well. And one story I want to tell you about before we jump into the teachings. However, before that, I would love for us to somehow find a way to just bring a candle, bring a rock, a feather, something, a picture of your ancestors, or a ancestor, or a distant relative that you might like to have in your teaching village. I'd like to do that now, is to find a way to make this place that we're in sacred while we wander into these teachings. So I'm going to go light my candle behind me. I would love for you guys to do what you need to do to bring yourself here into the body, and perhaps we'll honor a few moments of silence too. And so let's grab our goodies and make this place that much more sacred than it already is. Yes, and yeah, just a few minutes of maybe a few seconds of noble silence, just to honor those that are in a difficult spot right now, whether it be financially, health-wise. They don't have family around. They don't have a home. They have multiple barriers. We're very fortunate to be here today, and I thank you all for coming. But for those that don't, we just hold up a little bit of silence for them, some wisdom for them. Okay, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm standing today because I have a hard time talking about these teachings sitting down. I feel like I've, yeah, I've learned a lot of them in my body. So my body speaks sometimes loud and gets very tender. But so a story. I'm going to pause like this throughout our talk this morning, or our talk this afternoon, our presentation. And please be sending me notes along the way if something comes to mind, and we'll have time at the end to catch up. It's a story about my mom. I don't know what happened, but she had a brush with death. And this was I think it's a story of somebody who died well. And I'm not sure how it was all orchestrated. We never really are, but she certainly did some things to help. And it definitely looked like she was on her way out. And the doctor had come and signed the death certificate, and we had gathered all her 7 kids and all her grandchildren. You know, we were all we took her home from the hospital. She knew that she needed, she needed to go, and she wanted to do it with the doctor at home, and allow that to happen. That's what her family did. That's what her dad did. Her mom did. She wanted to honor that tradition. So I don't know. Fast forward 2 years, she lived another 2 years. She died so well. She was literally describing what it was like on the other side. And you read about these things in the near-death experiences, the same sort of metaphors and symbols and experiences that people have. But she came back and she lived for another 2 years. I think she's so bloody Irish, like I am. It was just a great party that everybody had, and everybody told her how wonderful she was and what a difference she made in their life. And so she said, well, if that's the kind of difference I can make, maybe I got a few more ounces of living in me. So she came back and lived for another 2 years really fully. But then again, this death came knocking on her door, and she was in the hospital, and she looked at me and she said, okay, I'm definitely ready to go this time around. And so we took her home and we gathered around, and a smaller gathering. And she said to me, she said, well, okay, so I gave birth to 7 of you, but I don't know how to do the other end of things, which is to die. Can you help me out here? And she had met one of my teachers who was very much involved in the HIV virus and AIDS back in the 80, 85, 86, and the early 90s. We were on the front line looking after and helping some of these men, mostly men, die consciously and die well. Conscious dying, we taught them how to do that, and sometimes prolonged lives so that they could finish up some of their work and the unfinished business in their lifetime and in this lifetime. And so Donald had worked a lot, and he'd worked a lot with helping people at that end, helping doctors deal with that amount of death, helping individuals to do some unfinished work, really just supporting people. And so my mom remembered when she came out of the hospital, she said, do you think Donald might be a help? And so I have a good relationship with Donald, and I went and talked to him, and of course, and he said, well, you gotta do 3 things. And I did these 3 things in one day with my mom. And he said, and she said, well, is this, she looked at me and laughed, and she goes, is this to get me better, or is this to help me die? And I said, I don't know. And we both started laughing. I mean, belly laughing. But suffice to say, 2 days later, at home, surrounded by family, she left. And it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And we got to bathe her, wash her body. And so, and did all the rituals we need after that to have lots of time to grieve and cry and say goodbye and unpack certain things that we wanted and distribute things that we definitely didn't need and things like that. So I just say that as an example of somebody who died well, and that by way of saying that not all of us get a chance to die like that. Some of us are hit by a car. Some of us die on chemotherapy and radiation with very little vitality left in our life, and it doesn't happen. Some of us end up, with heroin overdose, and it doesn't end well. I know that. I'm fully aware of that. And so to say that we're very fortunate is a very it is an understatement for me to be standing here talking to you. Feel blessed to be able to do that. And so can I take that story and bring that into the teachings of the cocoon? Wow, just maybe we can just pause. I'm feeling that grief. I don't think it's just my mom. I just think probably for a lot of people right now. But bear with me. The tears will come and go. And so, yeah, perhaps now it's a good time to be talking about these cocoon wisdom, because I think there's probably going to be some more closer to home, letting go of realities that we're leaving behind. That normal life is, whether it be physical, financial, job-wise, whether it be having an office to go to, whether it be, that we don't have the health, the robustness, the grit to be able to survive this, or we know somebody very close to us. But we're going to, part of the cocoon wisdom is learning how to grieve well, and how to die well, how to let go well, how to detach compassionately. And maybe that's what the tears are about, is learning that, is showing me this is how I need to do that, and maybe the grief for me has arrived. I know for other people in my office it has arrived. So the first teaching, the first teaching of the cocoon is really, if you remember from last week, we're now left the ordinary world, and we're now entering into the cocoon phase, that pupae phase. All of us has died down, and the caterpillar we're now a sac hanging from a branch. We're in the goo, and most people are not familiar on how to be in the goo, and or be with themselves, or be in the back 40. So there's a huge spiritual teaching, I think, for the whole world. If we have a home, if we can find a place for us to rest, hang our hat, that we can start to learn how it is that we can detach from things. There's a tool I want to tell you about that will really help around how it is that we can detach from the familiar in a way that's very honorable, and in a way that's leads to some other kinds of letting go and ritual and ceremony that we can all do to facilitate the grief not getting all backed up and stuck in here, which can create a little bit of havoc, as we all know. So the first cocoon wisdom teaching is learning how to die well, learning how that we can actually be okay with not doing. And not doing could be on one end of the continuum, the other end of the continuum, whereas we are physically having to let go, or we are now dying, we are now leaving this world. In traditional peoples around the world, they talk about learning to die before you die. Long before we get here, we need to learn to die well all the way along. So by the time this comes, our final, when we do put this body 6 feet under or cremate it, and we have had a chance to know, understand, and physically grieve and let go and detach from this body, from our relationships, from our, just saying it out loud is just really, we're in that, I'm in that grief, beginning of that. So dying well means being willing to let go now. Dying well means really tending to the details of things that no longer are with us. There's a lot of, the idea of the cocoon teachings, the cocoon wisdom is said beautifully when it's befriending the necessity of death. Befriending the necessity of death. Things have to die for the rebirth to come. We know that in nature, life is death and rebirth. It's nothing but that. However, we don't do a good job of bumping into death and working with it. So things that are going, we need to fully acknowledge. We need to say that, okay, that is going, and what do we need to do to allow that to go? You know, it can be the business like it was, is on its way out. It could be the old relationship. The marriage is gone. It could be there's a second chapter in the marriage. It could be that there's a second chapter in the business. It could be there's a second chapter in our health. But if we die really well, we go wholeheartedly into the cocoon, and we are going to sit down in there, and we're going to sit in that stillness, and we're going to allow our minds to die, our ideas to die, our feelings, like we're going to allow everything to just settle and settle and settle. We it's like we got like we gotta, if I could show you, it's like it's like we just need to completely let this whole, and this body especially, go. And why meditation and yoga before the Shavasana, Shiva asana is the death asana, is the dying. So the idea then to do nothing, but there's no such thing as doing nothing. You're either being nothing or you're doing nothing. Okay, I'm really doing nothing. I'm really doing nothing. No, no, no. The idea is to learn now how to, the teachings, the wisdom is us learning now to let go. And we are being taught this all around the world. So Caterpillar is showing us that we're dying. Now we're in the sack. Let's get into the sack and rest into it. And it turns out that unknown is also the place that you know, when we can let go into that emptiness, into that darkness, into that goo, that is the best place where we become full. I want to say that again. This is such a profound teaching. If we can allow for us to be in this goo, really allow ourselves to be emptied out, you know, we then invite the rebirth of fulfillment to fill us up. So dying well means also to not wash quickly over a grief moment, a sad moment, a letting go. It's to really honor and be respectful of the things that are going, and give them a proper due course of a burial, proper due course of a ritual, proper due course of honoring them, acknowledging them fully. I'm proud to say it came from the Irish tradition of the wake, which is 3 days of telling stories and eating and drinking and more stories and eating and drinking. And it was just a great chance for all the layers to come out of that person's life, how they touched us. It's how we remember, right? We remember then our lives, you know, by putting other members in. We bring other members into our village if we do this well, because there is the rebirth. There's always the rebirth. The teachings of death are rebirth. The teachings of death are rebirth and the full cycle of life, understanding the full cycle of life. So you guys got this. I understand you have that. So dying well is the first teaching. Can we just pause there because that we could talk for 3.5 years about what that means to die well, going into the desert to die well, and a conscious vision fast, going into our meditation hut. The hut practice is about dying well every day. It's learning to die every day. This is a good day to die, say a lot of people from around the world who live in indigenous cultures and have literal hut practices. There's something gritty about the word hut for me, and I like it because it involves, like, yeah, it's not pretty sometimes. The tears come, the sweat comes. Sometimes we have to yell and scream to get the anger out of us before we can let that go of what our dad did, or what, you know, what our wife did, or what our husband did. And it's getting this stuff done. It's getting this stuff done. The second teaching about that the cocoon can teach us, there are many more than 3, but the second one for me that I want to highlight, that you know about, is that we have an opportunity to move our wounds into a womb. And a womb gives birth. Our wounds can be transmuted. That's what happens in the cocoon. mush at the beginning. It's just the vestiges and the leftover and the artifacts of whatever, the liver was of the caterpillar, and the heart and the brains and the hormones, and it's just a whole pile of mush. But that mush and that wound, those wounding, that old woundings can then turn into a womb. It's what actually happens if we're willing to sit still, if we're willing to sit down into this. But if not, if we're going to sit down and we go, oh, I'm getting all dirty. I'm not, I can't sit down in that. I can't, that's not mine. It's gritty. It's blood, sweat, and tears kind of stuff. A hot practice is anyway. A dying practice is. Because you got to get stuff out of your system. Like you want to grieve. You're grieving. When you're grieving, you are just honoring. You're doing ceremony on what, that's like praise to what used to be there. My uncle who died in Ireland recently, we went back for a wake, and we yelling and screaming and weeping with tears. But we were also singing and dancing and having a shot of Irish whiskey for sure. So if we do this well, we go from the dying, the cocoon, within the cocoon, it goes from the goo just sort of landing to now all of a sudden it can, within that, turns into a womb that can give birth to, guess what? Yes, a butterfly that you remember had pigments of a tiny little pigment of red that was now going to be a big splash of red on the wing. It was going to be like a little gift that you had. Now all of a sudden you're fully expressing that in the wing, but not if you don't do the middle cocooning really well. So we need to die well. We need to, first thing. The second thing is if we do this well, if we really sit down into it, and I'm going to give you some nuts and bolts of how to do that. If we do this really well, then we also then will turn our wound into a womb that gives birth. You guys got this. Third thing I want to just fling at you is that when we allow ourselves to be in that, and the key word is allow, what happens is that we make possible the butterfly just to happen on its own. Like in other words, our completeness, our wholeness, our already wakeful state, that we are our wakeful being, our natural state, who we genuinely are, becomes fully expressed. It becomes fully expressed in the butterfly, if we allow it. Otherwise, if we don't allow what needs to emerge, if we don't allow what to come out of the womb, we don't allow the baby to just be born, to grow and be born in that 9 months. It might be 2 months, it might be 9 days, it might be 9 seconds, I don't know what it is. But if we don't allow the womb to give birth to what it needs to give birth to, we can truncate the whole process, and we can abort the whole process, and we can jump out way too quickly. So we need patience. And what 9 months does for an embryo, 40 early mornings will do for your gradual growing wholeness. This is the stage that we're in, that we're all cocooning. The cocoon says what 9 months has done for an embryo, 40 early mornings will do for your gradual growing wholeness. We need to be patient with a large work, like a universe. And a butterfly from a caterpillar or from a pile of goo is a huge universe. It's a huge transformation. This inhaling, walking around to a butterfly that's pollinating and cross-pollinating and basically doing a tremendous work, saving the planet, but bringing a lot of joy and love and rain. That's what a rainmaker does, becomes that butterfly, becomes that person. Not Pollyanna, we're not talking about, no, somebody who's grounded, heart is open, head is clear, and goes and gets the job done that needs to get done. A true mentor, right? A good storyteller. You've met them. Could be a good butcher, baker, candlestick maker too. So the last teaching is about allowing the gestation, allowing, like not pulling on the seed too quickly. You don't plant a whole bunch of seeds in a beautiful fertile soil, and then you end up, you know, every morning you're looking. Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? You know that story. We're not doing that. We're allowing things to gestate, to have that time. Patience with a large work. A new moon teaches deliberation and gradualness. What 9 months does for an embryo, 40 early mornings will do for your gradual growing wholeness. Just need to pause here. Yeah. Dying well. Dying well. Womb to womb. Patience with a large work. Like the butterfly that's in you, people. It's going to come out. We need to find a way to make ourselves safe. It's hard work for a lot of us. We don't have a home that we can rely on and relax into. We don't have a lot of people that have our backs. We need to find a way anyway. We need to find a way somehow. The government's being generous. We're going to beg, borrow, and steal, use the old Irish tools. We're going to do what we need to do, but we need to honor this thing that's starting to cook inside of us. Good. You guys want to pipe in with some questions? Can we do that? Oh no, let me do nuts and bolts, and then you have it all too. First nuts and bolts. First thing to help die well. It's called a 3x7 exercise. Some of you, I have taught you how to do this, but I want to remind you, a 3x7 writing exercise is a really good way. Okay, what's dying? My job might be dying. So you put job at the top of a piece of paper, and you turn on your timer, your clock timer for 3 minutes, for 7 minutes. Put the alarm on for 7 minutes, and then you hit start, and then you write about your job. But I want you to write really badly about your job, okay? That means no editing, no picking the pen up, no trying to get it right, no editing, no sentence structure, just write badly about this, okay? Now, it could be your job, it could be that fear, it could be death. I mean, my teacher said, like that we start salivating now. I start salivating when we're talking about death on some level, because I just know that it gives so much rebirth is right around the corner. So I know that sounds weird in some ways, but it's true. I really am. It's such an incredible teacher. There is no better teacher on the planet, no guru, no, if you really work with death. So put death. Let's use the example of death as on the top. For 7 minutes, I want you to hit the timer, write badly about death. Timer goes off, stop, stand up, touch your toes, take a drink of water. I'm going to do that now, just another pause. And second time round, we do the same thing. I want you to write about death. But this time you need to write in 7 minutes. So you set the timer up again. So a minute in between, first 7 minutes, write badly. Second time round, another 7 minutes. Now I need you to write really, really badly about death. And again, badly, no editing, don't think about it. Just write, just go. Your alarm goes off, stop, stand up, touch your toe, go get a pee, come back. Think a minute or two in between, no more. Sit down now and write the third 7 minute cycle. Excuse me, and this time I want you to write really, really, really badly about death. You got this? So badly, really badly, really, really, really badly. Okay? What are we doing? We're trying to get to the bones of what we know for sure is the wisdom about who we are and what we need to do in order for us to understand death. What's our relationship like death? Then you reread. So that's the first part. The second part, you reread the second or third, or there'll be something in there that will stand out for you. And a couple of words together, it could be a sentence, it could be one word. This is the second part of the exercise, you lift that one word, put it on a brand new piece of paper, and now I want you to write. Now I want you to write. Now I really want you to write about death. So now you're writing about death, and you get to write as long or as little. You get to write a poem, you get to write a script, you get to write whatever you want to do. What are we doing? The first one we do, the first 7-minute cycle is really talking to our heads writing. Second one, our muscles maybe, right? Third time, our bones are writing. From the bones, we know shit. Excuse my Gaelic. We know stuff. We have bone wisdom. We have bone memory. We know what our relationship is with death. So let that then speak, because we need to be consciously dying well. So we need to be consciously walking into and learning from death all the way along here, and learning how to let go all the way along, and learning how to shed skins like snakes do. We need to, there's a lot to learn from dying. This makes sense, right? That's the first exercise. So that's really powerful, powerful medicine. And it will then take you into the second nuts and bolt thing. You may, after writing that letter about death, you may then, something's moving you to go down to the ocean and take a dip and rinse yourself off from the skin that no longer belongs. Or you need to light a fire and burn something that is, that I want you instinctively to understand that you now need to move into perhaps letting some things go. You may end up writing about the death of your wife, or the death of a child, or the death of your parent that you didn't say goodbye to. And now you really want to say goodbye to it. So the second part is turning that letter into perhaps a ritual. Now, it's my job. I work with people to help design rituals that really allow them to deliver what they need to deliver and get out of their system what they need to get out of their system, so they can deliver the cargo that's inside of them. Sometimes we have barriers that just need to move out of the way so we can access some of the beauty that's running through us. And that is the butterfly, right? So these exercises are learning to die well. The part of that is, I'm going to say we're doing it Monday to Friday, is learning about the hut practice, is learning how to let go and just allowing everything to be as it is. And the hut practice is started, we're learning as we go here, we're getting feedback, we're upgrading, we're changing it, but the basic teaching around it is this hut practice of letting go, of letting things be as they are. If we can enter into the moment like Eckhart Tolle wants us to do it, like Buddha wants us to do it, like Lao Tzu wants us to do it, like Thich Nhat Hanh, who just, I think, recently passed away, it wants us to do it. It's about just resting into that great adventure that's there for us. When we die well, we go into this great adventure. We learn to just travel every day. My teachers used to call it journeying. And the journeying is what we need to be doing. Otherwise, we're walking through life kind of like a zombie. That's why the zombie movies really work. There's such a proliferation, my estimation. No, if we're journeying, we're traveling with love and aliveness. We're engaged. We want to do things. We want to pick up rocks and smell them and taste them and walk with them and feel the weight of them and, and smell them and hold them and feel the weight of them. And you get the picture. So those teachings are huge. The hut practice. The other thing I might say, just before we turn on your questions and your comments, is there's in the hut practice, you want to give yourself permission to heal. You want to give yourself permission to heal. I'm just taking that in again. Just want to breathe that in. So people hang on to things. It's not the right time. But if this is the right time, can we make some cuts? Can we die some things? Can we allow some things to go? Can we focus on the butterflies so those things that don't belong start to leave? Questions for you, that's all. So, can we turn the chat line on and you guys participate that way? Can we do that? Questions, comments? I'm going to come a bit closer to see what's apart from death. What other topics for writing? Oh, death, grief, any loss in your life, any challenge that you keep bumping into, any pattern that you have that is not serving you anymore, an addiction. What is Psyche trying to teach you each night? Are there themes? If you're not understanding what the themes are, maybe take one of them. Sometimes people are always rushing to get on a plane and they reach the plane, and then of course the plane leaves without them. Okay, so what is that? That's missing out or not, failure to launch. You can put that at the top. I've seen anything and everything on the top of those 3 times 7. I hope that's helpful. When you say write badly, do you mean negatively about your heart? Yeah. So good question. So really, more about write badly is not negatively. No, just don't try to trying to do a perfect job, and so that you're, somebody would look at it and go, whoa, good grammar and good marks and an A+. It's more about like, just allow yourself to write and not trying to perfect it, not trying to get it into a beautiful thing. Does that help? Yeah, hopefully that helps. Marilyn, what job, work, or spiritual job badly, as in reckless, unleashed, raw? I'm not sure what that means. Maybe say that another way. Oh, what job also work? What job, work also, or spiritual job? Still not quite understanding that. Say that another way, Marilyn, and then I'd be able to answer that. So, yeah. Job as in work? Yeah. Are you asking? Yeah, your job, your career, your work, that you can put that at the top and do a 3 times 7 on that. Yeah, you could do that. You could put you could also do your service to humanity. Do the first one, do work. And then you might next day do a 3 times 7 on what you feel your service is to humanity. And yeah, because sometimes sometimes the job isn't going to make it across the bridge. In this time of uncertainty, we may be now doing something completely different on the other side. Our butterfly may be getting us into the butterfly may be serving people in a very different way, or it's doing exactly the same thing, but from a place of aliveness, from joy. So really the invitation here for you guys and for me is to, it's the world over, it's not just us. It is to die well. If we die really well, we really get to the bottom of it, then we really, and let go of a lot and unhook a lot that doesn't belong anymore, like we let that go, or we unhook it with ritual. The more, when we do that, that's why the stories are so great. That's why I love these stories. They really show us that we need to make these. He needed 3 days. Like the Rainmaker, if you remember, he needed 3 days. It wasn't just, oh, well, give me a cup of coffee and I'll sit down for 20 minutes on the rock over there and hopefully something happens. No, he knew things were way out of order with himself, but he also recognized things on the outside were even more out of order. His vantage point, his fulcrum, his way to be able to really leverage this thing was for him to go into the hut, so that because he brought himself into alignment, and that was his job. The fact that he had a gift of rainmaker, the gift of being a rainmaker, is just fantastic. That's how he serves, right? That's how he serves. And then he went back to his vegetables. But it was 3 days. It wasn't half an hour. It wasn't even a 1-day workshop. It was 3 days in silence. So some people in the meditation are asking me about silence. Can you put some music on in the background? Because I really like the music. I've thought about it, but we need to befriend silence. We're not always need to be entertained. We need to get the silence and the stillness that's there after a storm. You've been there. When the rains come and it passes and the storm comes. I mean, we just get so excited about it. I don't know how many people have said to me over the 35 years I've been here in Vancouver that one of their favorite things to do is to go to Tofino and watch the storms. And storm watching, right? I mean, some of you have done that. Part of it is because what happens when the storms pass? There's all these negative ions. There's this, it's almost like everything's teeming and is quiet and the thunder is gone and everything is, and all that pitter patter of the rain is come and gone. It got really loud and then there was thunder and then of course it passed, and it's so beautiful that it passed. Because what's there when it's passed is that stillness, and we have such a hunger, such a longing for that. It's inside of us. We don't have to go to Tofino to do that. So if we're willing to allow the storm come and go, feelings to come and go, our job to come and go. I mean, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying this is hard work, people. This is really hard work. This is unbelievably hard work. I'll guarantee you 99% of the people on the planet not know how to do this. So, your assignment is to model how it is that you are taking care of your wound or wounds, plural. We have many. I have many. So there's more cutting to be done, but there's also more allowing, the last part of allowing ourselves to step into a place of fulfillment. Allowing that wholeness to bubble up and that butterfly to emerge. But not too quickly, not too slowly. It's a very quiet time. It's a very, we need to let the body rest into, things as they are, what is here. So we're talking weeks and months of training, and that's why I'm I've thought about this practice I want people to do in the morning, and there's going to be less explanation in the morning. Now it's going to be more just doing, just resting into this practice. I want you to really, be on that adventure of because if in our meditation, we can be letting go of stuff all the time, learning to disidentify, to detach, to be able to really, treat ourselves with fierce gentleness instead of berating ourselves if we're not able to just let go and we wander off. How do we navigate bringing ourselves back and bringing ourselves back and bringing ourselves back? This is a tough question. Yeah, a tough thing to do. Not everybody will be able to do it. So yeah, permission to heal. So are there any questions about this business of befriending? One of my themes here today is befriending the necessity of death. I'm not saying, oh, look, okay, we're all going to die. It's all great, blue sky spirituality and blah, 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 blah. No, this is about the grief seeds being with us and really facing death and being with the things that are dying. And so when little things bubble up in our dreams or little things in the day that just drive us crazy we know that there's been hanging on to that list of resentment, from your ex or whatever it is. That's the stuff we're talking about, like cutting, writing it out, burning it, throwing it back in the ocean, sending it back. And if you're going to do these rituals, you know, you've heard me say this, I need you to do it really well. It can't be done half-heartedly. If you're going to let something go, let it freaking go, people. Don't say, oh, well, I can always let it go next week. No, 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 no. If you're going to lean in and cut something and dye something well, then cut it and dye something well. Because that's where you'll be able to access that rebirth. People have done it and say, oh, well, I don't know what happened and nothing worked. No, you need, if you want to mobilize the organizing agency of the planet, of how this universe works, nature doesn't bullshit dying. I'm being crude here. I'm just saying dying is dying in nature. When something's dead. Like, so I was out this morning, Kelly and I went out for a walk and I took pictures of all these dying trees that are just giving this birth to these gorgeous, you know, new seedlings. And, you know, the first layer of it can be huckleberries, you know, or it could be a little shoot of cedar coming up, or a little bit of salal growing out of the rotting, red, smelly, gorgeous smelly cedar, you know, or, you know, and you can see some of the logs, you know, they were burnt. They didn't, you know, the fire, the burn that went through there, you know, whatever, 50 years ago. I'm in the Pacific Spirit Park. So nature knows how to die really well, if you're wondering about that. It's not pretty, it's harsh sometimes, it really is, but not all the time. There's not, people say, oh, nature's so vicious. They, you know, the wolf goes in and pulls down the deer. The wolf pulls down the weakest deer, the weakest moose. There's so I mean, there's method in it, and whether you agree with me or not, that's okay. But I want you to be on to letting stuff go, because you will then learn to, as they say in Africa, and this is my hope for you guys, for me too, is we learn to walk in our filth. The idea is to wear our filth well. Our filth is we own the wound. So it became the wound that gave birth to aliveness inside of us. That is, you know, that we're bringing to the village. I mean, that ultimately is what you're going to bring to the village. That is the boon. That's what the Rainmaker, that is the rain, is that aliveness. And the way to get an aliveness is cut all the stuff that's dead. So when you look up at the forest this morning, there's a lot of dead stuff, a lot of dead wood up there. So cut. We've got a lot of dead wood. How are we doing for time? I'm just telling stories now. You guys got this. Yeah? So we just take another pause and then see if any other questions come bubbling up, or any other reflections need to be made. So happy to, yeah, just breathe this in. Just what we're talking about is profound. Not everybody wants to talk about it. I'm not saying I'm profound. I'm saying nature is profound. The teachings are profound. Yeah. But yeah, let's just take a pause here, and yeah. Yeah, we'll be uploading it. Yeah, yes, and that's right. By the way, the other Zooms that we done are available. Jan's made them available. I've got the Zoom links. I think they're on the newsletter that went out. Yeah, and this one will be in the next newsletter as well. So yeah. Okay. It's 2:00. I'm thinking that we've done well. It's beautiful and sunny outside. We most of us are here in the Pacific Northwest, and can we leave it at that? If you have any questions down the road about this topic, we're probably going to keep moving along into unless there's a bubbling up of all sorts of concerns and some some challenges that come up in this next week. We're going to be moving next week into next Thursday at 1 o'clock to butterfly's beauty. Oh, my favorite topic. Butterfly and beauty, and how beauty can save the world. Beauty will save the world. Beauty will save us this time around as well. And that's the aliveness we were talking about. Hint, hint, hint. So next week will be that. During the week, of course, we're doing the meditation. Some of you are signing up, joining it. We're going to be a lot quieter next week in the meditation. We're going to drop way more into just allowing us, you know, just dropping into that beautiful isness. And then maybe we'll have a few things to say afterwards, but most of the meditation, and again, I don't know if some of you are not able to get there, that's also for 24 hours, each of the recordings. So this morning's recording on Instagram Live is available for 24 hours, and then it goes off the table. So, and then, yeah, like that. So you're getting emails, you're getting you saw in the email too, there is a pay what you can option now for my services, for my holistic psychotherapy services. And happy to explain how that works. There's a maximum and a minimum. There's a minimum rate, and then there's an idea, a preferred rate. So that's an offering I'm putting out there. And then also some people have come forward and talked about, can we do some storytelling training? And that's also going to be at a pay what you can proposition. It's going to be some scale, a range from a minimum to a preferred rate of learning. And so it just feels like these stories are needed right now. That's my sense of it. And they've been around for thousands of years for good reason. And with all this reimagining going on and people having to really die well and to rebirth their life, their career, their health, their community, their village. I mean, we need rainmakers out there. So part of what I'm doing is wanting to bring out this storytelling training, which involves meditation, it involves learning how to do ritual and ceremony really well, but also learning about your own storytelling, and then learning some of these stories, like, and then putting them out on a blog and putting them out in the community to family and friends. And that could be your two cats. You could do a storytelling for your two cats if you wanted. But something like that, and that's going to evolve. I'm just going to allow that thing to unfold. I'm not going to give you all because I don't know all of the details yet. I'm trying to make it responsive and alive at this time, because here we are in this time, not another time. We're in this time, and I want it to be useful, and I want us to be in this local, global, interactive learning environment. And what I love about the storytelling, the way I want to do it, is that it's kind of like story based. It's not like you have to go through a curriculum and you have to regurgitate and prove your learning. No, it is like it's project based. It's story based. So there's engagement, and there'll be other people that will also engage in it as well. So excited about that. You'll get more details as they show up. Can I thank you all for coming? I think that's it. We're here, we're done. Thank you all for coming. These are profound teachings. Please stay with them. If you need some support around it, I'm around. And I will see you tomorrow morning or next Thursday or in my office, whatever makes sense for you. All right, thank you so much. Signing off.